My family isn't the adventurous type. We stick to routines, quiet dinners, and familiar neighborhoods. So when my uncle suggested a weekend cabin trip in the woods of upstate New York, everyone was hesitant, but curiosity won. The cabin was tucked deep among pine trees, far from any town, with only a narrow dirt road leading to it. We were all excited, thinking it would be peaceful, a chance to disconnect from city noise. When we arrived, the cabin looked inviting from the outside, rustic and charming, but something about it made my stomach tighten. The air smelled damp and earthy, and the shadows cast by the surrounding forests seemed unusually thick, almost heavy. My cousins and I were assigned the loft upstairs. It was cramped, with creaky floorboards and thin walls, but we laughed it off, thinking our nerves were just city paranoia. That first night, we stayed up later than usual, telling stories and drinking cocoa, enjoying the quiet. Around midnight, I heard a strange creak from the main floor. At first, I dismissed it as the cabin settling, but then a faint shuffle followed, almost like someone was walking on the wooden floorboards, stopping just beneath our loft. I froze, listening. The sound stopped. My cousins were asleep, oblivious. The next morning, nothing seemed out of place. We explored the surrounding woods and returned to the cabin exhausted but happy. That night, I went downstairs to grab water, and a shadow moved at the far end of the living room. My heart raced, but when I called out, there was no reply. The shadow disappeared as if swallowed by the darkness. I chopped it up to my imagination, but unease settled in my chest. By the third night, things escalated. I was alone in the loft, reading by flashlight when a soft tapping started at the window. Slow, deliberate. I tried to convince myself it was a branch, but then I heard breathing quiet, deliberate, right outside the glass. My flashlight flickered, and when it stabilized, I glimpsed a figure staring in. Tall, motionless, completely dark against the night. I screamed, and the figure vanished. My cousins woke immediately, panic in their eyes. We barricaded the loft door and stayed awake the rest of the night, listening to footsteps and whispers that seemed to circle the cabin. The next morning, we discovered scratches on the wooden deck outside the loft, deep and jagged, but no footprints leading away. Something had been out there, watching, waiting. We all agreed to stick together and not go outside alone. Despite our caution, the unease lingered, thick as fog. On the final night, we were crowded into the living room, telling ourselves it was almost over. But then a knock came from the basement door, 3 slow, deliberate knocks. No one was down there, and the door was locked from the inside. My uncle grabbed a flashlight and slowly descended the steps, everyone else holding their breath. At the bottom, the beam illuminated a single object, a small, weathered doll dressed in tattered clothes, staring up at him with cracked glass eyes. Behind it, the basement wall seemed to ripple, like shadows moving without form. We didn't sleep that night. When the sun finally rose, we packed frantically, leaving behind every personal item except what we could carry. The cabin looked calm in the daylight, innocuous even, but the dread we felt didn't fade. As we drove away, my cousin whispered that she saw a figure standing at the tree line, motionless, watching us leave, disappearing only when the car hit the first curve. None of us have gone back. We tell the story now, years later, but the fear is still vivid. Something about that cabin wasn't natural. Something followed us, unseen but aware, and I don't think we were ever meant to leave that place in peace.